Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at the Master Grade Narrative Gundam C-Pax Verka. This right here is the Gunpla event of 2024 so far, and all I can say is if things keep going the way they're going right now, this is Gundarium tier through and through. Now, I haven't put it through the paces just yet, but I am so impressed. Sometimes that white Verka box comes with a whole lot of issues, but these days that does not seem to be the case. Anyway, if you do want one of these of your own, I got mine through Hobby Link Japan. Link is down there in the description if you do want to get one of your own. I highly recommend it. But yeah, this thing is absolutely awesome. Let's get right into it by winding back to the build. So what I've got right here is what this kit looks like out of box straight built. Nothing has been added to it, nothing has been used with it, I haven't panel lined it, I have not done anything, and this is one incredible looking Master Grade Gundam. But what it packs in under the hood is even more impressive. Now, Master Grade kits are quite rare, if non-existent these days, besides the last couple of Verkas we've seen, which is this as well as the Zeta Gundam. If you saw my unboxing video of this, or if you want to go check that out right now, you can, but inside of this, we've got multiple build options. That's the standard Narrative Gundam. You can use some grey Psycho Frame, or you can use some red Psycho Frame too. The initial build with this is to actually build it without the Psycho Frame, and then the Psycho Frame can be thrown on and removed off in a cool kind of way. So you've got the base Narrative Gundam all of the time to kind of work with, so it's not necessarily a straight up option you have to choose while building it. The overall build is ridiculously intricate, so much is going on. In a way, this looks like and kind of feels like a cross between what it is in universe, and that is the Nu Gundam as well as the Unicorn Gundam. So it kind of feels a little bit like the Unicorn Gundam Verka as well as the Nu Gundam Verka. So that works out absolutely spectacularly. Any of the kind of loose parts or jank we would have seen in the past with some older Verka kits, also including the Nu Gundam and the Unicorn Gundam, are not here at all. This is a perfect build that builds up so well. The intricacies here are off the charts. Inside of the inner frame, there are so many moving parts and transforming gimmicks, so much so that you would think you would end up with something that is a little bit funny in the end, but not at all. This is expertly designed and one of the most impressive builds I have ever built. The almost partial transforming elements that we would have seen in the Nu Gundam Verka that had some Psycho Frame inside of them is in this too, just in a more realized kind of way because of how intricate this test bed mobile suit is. That means we have opening parts in the legs, sliding aspects inside the chest that move the chest outwards, moving parts up in the shoulders, and one of the most impressive aspects about this is the fully transforming core block system that we have inside of it. The core fighter is extremely detailed. I will mention for the first time ever, I did go ahead and paint the pilot figure for the main reason that you can actually see this pilot figure when the kit is complete, because it has a literal window into the cockpit even in robot mode. But yeah, the most impressive aspect about that core block is the fact that it can transform into the core block and is rock solid inside of the unit. As the build goes on, there's so many little nuances inside of it that are just so incredible. Like I mentioned, we've got some cool opening hatches in the upper thighs. Every single aspect of even the waist unit is given ridiculous amounts of detail on the surface and on the underside. We've got tiny little joints inside the forearms, which makes sure we have a nice little bit of movement between the elbow and the forearm, so it just always looks natural and dynamic. And on top of that, we have a choice of hands, standard fists or partially posable hands. So they are articulated, not as crazy as the perfect grade style ones we would have seen before in such kits as the Jesta and the Nu Gundam Verka. These are not as dynamic, but they are a whole lot easier to clean up and a whole lot more structurally sound. Lastly, then we do have some very nice stickers included in here as well. These have detail printed onto them, they're very thick, and they have a real kind of glassy finish to them. These are used in the various sensors and cameras on the Gundam, predominantly in the head. Underneath though, we do have fully clear parts, so that does mean if you want some light piping, if you do want to color these in whatever color you want for a custom, you can do that. And the stickers which pop on top look ridiculously phenomenal and not as flat and dead as old school foils. That goes for the eyes as well, but the eyes are fully color separated underneath if you would prefer that, although they are just in plain clear plastic. Finally then, when you do snap the entire Gundam together, it feels rock solid and so good. There's a little bit of wiggle in the legs I'll talk about later on, but otherwise a fantastic, perfect build out of box. We do have some ridiculously intricate equipment in here as well, including the rifle, which can be built as the narrative version or the Jegan version of the rifle. I'll also mention it's very easy to switch between the two, so it's not a permanent choice. We've a nice big shield in here as well that does have some psycho frame in it, a choice of grey or red. And just like I mentioned about the rifle, these are easy to switch out. It's just pull out one part, remove the psycho frame, slap it back on and change it. So they've thought about everything. Enjoyable build, one of the best builds that I've, well, enjoyed the most in a long time. But what does it look like once it's finished? Let's find out. And that brings us to right now. Everything else has been a bit of a flashback. In here I am standing. Well, I'm not standing, I'm sitting, but the narrative Gundam is standing right here. I'm gonna swap out all of the stuff that will be used later on in the accessories. Just get this to its kind of basic mode right here. Nothing basic about it, really. And I don't mean to jump the gun, but right now it is feeling like Gundarium tier, but it's time to put it through its paces, starting with the aesthetics. So jumping on into the aesthetics, and what can I say, I'm absolutely and utterly wowed by this Gundam right here. Once again, this is its straight build. No nothing added, no detailing, not even a panel line on it. This is it out of box and it just looks incredible. Verka has always pushed the envelope when it comes to what gunpla can do, and this has done it incredibly. The amount of different tiny little panels of armor, the intricate detail of the bare inner frame, and the way the inner frame does come through from underneath to make some of the dark grey detailing on the surface of the armor. Overall, it does look incredible. The vents in the chest, the window into the pilot figure itself, that killer narrative Gundam glare, it's all there. This is the mix, absolutely perfect mix, between the Nu Gundam and the Unicorn Gundam. So now I'm popping the Master Grade Narrative Gundam under a bunch of different types of lights, just so you can kind of get a great idea of what it's actually like, no matter what sort of environment it's in. The combination of having the decent size of a Master Grade, all of that detail all over it, the greebles, the multifaceted different direction-facing armor plates, the amount of detail upon detail upon detail means that this picks up the light perfectly. No matter what light you pop it under, it always looks absolutely phenomenal. Once again, I have to say this is straight out of box. No extra effort, no additional cleanup. This is what it looks like. It's insane. So next up, throwing it down side by side with the line art, there is the model kit, of course, on the left, line art on the right. And as you can see, everything is where it needs to be. The color separation is fantastic. Instead of having that kind of green little cockpit, we have an actual window, which of course looks much better. But you might be like, well, the proportions are completely all out of whack compared to it. It doesn't have the big feet, big legs, and all of that. Well, on the wiki, they also have this one right here, which is the alternate line art by Hajime Kotoki, which of course would be the line art for this particular kit. It's definitely much more of a standardized 1/100 Gundam or Gunpla kind of look, which definitely I dig, but honestly in the anime I don't remember it having absolutely massive feet, but this, it's pretty much absolutely perfect, if not even nicer looking, because of all of that detail on the upper thighs. So when it comes to the overall color separation on the Master Grade Narrative Gundam, it is off the charts awesome. Kind of takes what Gunpla has done over the years and dialed it to 11. There's not a lot of color really when it comes to something like the Narrative Gundam, but what they've done is awesome. So yeah, what is going on here is absolutely incredible. When you take the face, we've got those brand new style of stickers in the eyes and the head camera. So not only are they like the three-dimensional stickers that we've seen multiple times before, they also have a little bit of detail in there to kind of make it look like there's a lens, and the same around on the back here. It's kind of printed a little bit of detail into that. The white on here is mainly just in white. The grey, of course, is the grey it's meant to be. This isn't a kind of real grade style separation. This is just the design. We do have the grey coming up from the underneath layers, which is a great way of attaching parts because it gives us such a nice level of extra detail. Quite literally all over the place, which looks incredible. But one of the things that has really impressed me about this is the two-tone inner frame. So as you can see, the outer sections here, those are in a light inner frame color, and the inner sections are in a darker inner frame color, which is an incredible combination. This is everywhere, and it kind of brings me back a little bit to what the real grade inner frames used to kind of look like with two colors in it. But of course this, you build up yourself entirely, and it just looks so good. Now I'm not sure how simple it will be to see here, so I might as well just try and get this cockpit opened up. I did have to actually remove the canopy there a little bit, but I did paint the tiny little Jonah in there because that clear piece does mean that when it is attached. But yeah, it's a little tough to see, but of all the master grades I've ever built, this is probably the one that really has the most reason to paint your pilot fig. But yeah, this is really a kit I could gush about all day, about all the awesome aspects, including the actual verniers with the yellow parts inside. You can actually see the tucked wings of the core fighter in there. Everything moves around, so this is just it in its base, standing there state, but overall, so impressive. Now, when it does come to the bad elements of model kits, which of course is the nub marks, the mold lines, and the seam lines, you're not going to get a single seam line on this kit because every part is an armor part. Nothing really connects together in an awkward way, it's all designed perfectly. Nubs, I cannot see a single one on it right now, even though I did see some while cutting it out. The worst offender, of course, being the navy blue plastic. It always is. It always marks up to some degree, no matter how well you try to do it. I do recommend actually using a glass file, snip from a little bit of a distance, leave a bit of knob, and glass file it off. That's probably the only thing that is going to work. And mold lines, I can't see a single instance of one right now, so nothing killer anyway. So there are no color correcting stickers in here. There are those cool thick printed stickers for using in the eyes, head cameras, as well as on the rifle, but besides that we do get a sheet of Katoki decals. Now this isn't overly crazy, these are 100% standard Katoki style, so if you've seen one sheet of Katoki decals, you've seen them all. Now I've learned my lesson over the last few reviews not to actually just slap these on before the review, because that means I won't be able to do any kind of articulation later on, so I'm going to have to do these a little bit later on. Next up onto the full 360-degree spin so you can see everything for yourself in case I forgot to mention anything. Just looking at it right now, there's a lot I didn't mention, like this does have fully color separated Vulcans up on the top of the head. The only thing I've panel lined on this is the lines going down the cheek just to make the head pop a little bit more, but I haven't done anything else. Overall, it just looks ridiculous. This is a test bed mobile suit that was never meant for battle. It is just an experimental unit for testing stuff out on, the basis for the Nu Gundam, and that does, or should I say is, reflected in the overall design. It just looks so good, so much small intricate details. Pretty much everything you can see on there that does look intricate does move, so this is going to be one busy articulation and gimmicks part later on, but for now let's get into a bit of a size comparison and check out just how big it is. And just a little bit of a stepping out of the video sort of thing. I went to go get stuff for the size comparison, so it's like, I thought it'd be time to reminisce about some old gunpla that I had kind of stored away. Ooh, it's down with the ball. Sadly, I don't have tons and tons and tons of space in which to keep all of my gunpla on the shelves all of the time, which I totally wish that I did. So that means a lot of it has to go into storage at times, so it is kind of fun when I finally get to actually go take it out with dust from places I've lived many years ago still on it. I thought the ball would be a nice addition to any sort of, well, I was almost going to say like Federation mobile suit, but when it comes to Gundam, you see things really aren't that black and white because the narrative Gundam isn't one. Slowly trying to remember how to reassemble this back into the way that it should be, but this seems to be the way. And there we go. One beautiful ball. Ready to go. So what is next inside the bag? It's the Hyakushiki 2.0. Now this one has absolutely neither does the ball really, but it's got absolutely nothing to do with narrative Gundam. But this is a kit I don't remember building, and it's one I keep meaning to come back to because it's pretty much a nice, perfect master grade kit with one killer paint job right out of the box. Now the worst aspect about it is the antenna, which I've broke multiple times. That's why this is a shiny golden antenna, because it's not actually off this particular Hyakushiki. It's actually off one of the, is it a Build Divers one that's based on this? Anyway, next one. Grabbing another kit. So I asked you guys in the unboxing what you'd like to see in this review, and this kit came up a few times. This, of course, is the Master Grade Nu Gundam Verka. And this right here definitely feels like it is the framework for the kit that we're looking at today. And it just was not quite realized back when it was designed. Absolutely gorgeous, great tech in it, but it's a little bit funky out of box. This right here being the absolute main offender. Next kit! Okay, so next up in here is one of the craziest kits of all time, especially when it comes to Master Grade. This is the Master Grade Extreme Unicorn Gundam Verka. And I have to say, now that I've, well, traveled forward in time since when this was released, I am really disappointed that they never released the base unicorn this is right here, with just a red destroy inner frame and none of the base and LED stuff, just as a Unicorn Gundam 2.0, because it is so much better than the standard Unicorn Verka. Next kid! So next up then is this right here. I don't know if I recorded that last bit or not. It wasn't recording when I checked it, so if there was a weird cut there, that's why. This is the Master Grade Gundam Mark 4? 5? Either way, a big awesome kit. Next kid! Next up, some more Nu Gundam, this time the High Nu Gundam. Alright, so there they are, ready to go. Let's do the size comparison. So jump now into the size comparison, and there it is beside a high grade and a master grade Gundam. So even compared to the standard RX-78-2, this is definitely one tall Gundam. Next up, moving through some Verka Master Grades, there's the previously released Verka, the Master Grade Zeta Gundam Verka, the Double Zeta Verka, Master Grade Extreme Unicorn Gundam, Verka, Thunderbolt Verka, Nu Gundam Verka, High Nu Gundam Verka, and just a bunch of random Master Grades. There's the Master Grade Ball, possibly Verka, Master Grade Hyakushiki, version 2.0, Master Grade Gundam Mark 5, Master Grade Testament Gundam. Actually, hold on, is that the out frame? I forget. And beside a couple of other 1/100s, there's how big it'd be beside Gundam Ariel and the Reborn 100, Gundam Lindworm. Question time! So in the unboxing of this, I asked you guys to ask me some questions you'd like to see answered in the review in case there's something I would totally forget to do. But one of the most requested things to do is to compare this kit with the Master Grade Nu Gundam Verka, which absolutely makes total sense considering that this is the prototype to the Nu Gundam and they're both Verkas with a lot of similar design aspects. Now the first thing I'll mention is my Nu Gundam here is incredibly dusty, so that does mean this one right here is not the one that I reviewed. Oh, I just dropped that. But yeah, this one is not the one I reviewed. The one I reviewed I put a little bit more time into. I think I might have panel lined it and done some extra stuff to make sure it's not as janky as it is out of box. So it brings me to point number 2. The out of box experience with the Master Grade Nu Gundam Verka is not quite as nice as what you get with this absolute beast right here. Of course, it is a brand new kit, so that is to be expected. This one is a little bit floppy and droppy, and the reason there is no fin funnel around here on the back is because it does not hold on without a little bit of modification. Otherwise, it's just holding on with a wish and a prayer. Size-wise, the Nu Gundam is quite a bit bigger than the actual narrative Gundam. So starting off with a bit of a side-by-side comparison with the faces on these, of course, they are quite different. Funnily enough, the head in the narrative Gundam looks kind of a little bit like the real grade cute version head that we have in the real grade version of the Nu Gundam. Besides that though, we've got those brand new cool cameras in the head and the eyes, or should I say the stickers on the cameras, and otherwise it's a nice perfect sculpt with some nice grey color separated Vulcans. Over on the other side then we've got the Master Grade Nu Gundam. Both of these are out of box built with nothing done to them. Same with the Nu here. It's not as detailed as you can see compared to the narrative on the other side. We do have the same kind of double V-fin and overall kind of aesthetic, but not as much detail. It's a stronger looking face and we do have some Vulcans on it. These are color separated, which is a little bit of a shock. At first I thought they weren't, but they are just in a kind of light grey as opposed to a dark grey, which is probably accurate to the line art, but overall there's not as much contrast between the details. Moving down to the torsos now, and the torso detail on the narrative is off the charts. The Nu Gundam has more of the kind of traditional color scheme of a Gundam, just in a darker shade and a nice blocky strong aesthetic, but what we've got on the narrative is beyond compare really when it comes to master grades. This is so detailed up, there's so much detail going on, and the fact that it has a full transforming core fighter in there with a clear cockpit into the, well, pilot figure means that this is ridiculous. Also, we do have those vortex generators on the chest, which I forgot to mention in the build, which I'll flick back to right now, are, well, the exterior ones are tiny little pieces. They're not coming through from the parts inside like we would see on the Nu Gundam. These are actually tiny little parts. You do get spares, I will mention that though, so if you do lose them, you've got one extra for both. The Nu Gundam's chest is really nice. It does have some opening aspects on it, which is pretty cool, so it's not like it's a simple Chest, not at all. We do have some parts that separate out. I don't even remember how to do this, so maybe I shouldn't kind of screw around with it, but there is green psycho frame inside of this as part of the high news design. There is more opening parts. Actually, I'll just flick back to the review. It's probably better than me messing around with this. So there is a lot going on in there too, so it is a very detailed master grade as well. So both are quite impressive. Now this is definitely a subjective thing, but when it does come to the arms, I do like the lure of this being a test bed and having those skinny arms. But for me, I do prefer what I'm seeing over on the Nu Gundam. As well, there's a lot of detail, they're strong, the panel separation just looks incredible. The arms on this do look a little bit on the plain side, at least so far, without the extra parts. I've always been tempted to kind of get some white plastic, build a little bit of an arm for up there, and maybe paint the outer bits of the legs white and kind of make it look complete. But when it comes to the lore and what it's meant to look like, this is bang on the money, and the two-tone grey looks fantastic. However, the Nu Gundam definitely wins out for me because it's got so much going on. Lots of nice panel separation, a bit of psycho frame up top, got a little yellow vent or thruster section in the forearm, and it's just separated up very, very nicely. Overall, pretty cool, and the joint is nice as well, especially with this little section up here, which I think, no, it doesn't move with it. It just looks like it does and looks great. Now the hands, that is one big difference. The new ride here has those old school articulated hands. Some people love them. I'm not a big fan. I'm going to flick forward to the future to what the hands look like on the narrative Gundam, and these are a more solid but more simple version of an articulated hand. Does pretty much what you'd want it to, but it's not as crazy expressive. It's easier to clean up too, so that's a little bit of a nice trade-off. Next up then is the waist armor. I've always found the waist armor on the Nu Gundam to look a little bit flat and unfinished. It's a weird aspect to the design, definitely. But what we've got on the narrative Gundam is nice and rounded, lots of nice plates built up really nice, some grays coming through from underneath, and overall does look fantastic. The leg design on the narrative Gundam is incredibly cool. The missing parts up top for the, well, I was going to say for the psycho frame, but that was more of an afterthought. I guess it's just incomplete. It has the same sort of knees as we see on the Nu Gundam, like the cutout up here, the overall shape, this little bit of a calf armor section that is not quite as fully fleshed out, and the feet as well, including the little grabby sections we have that fold out from in there, and the thruster. Overall, very, very similar, and you can really see the prototype type nature to this kit compared to the new over there. Fantastic. Finally, there is a bit of a quick back comparison. The verniers have the yellow inside, both of them, which is pretty cool. I have lost this section right here off this particular version. I do have a second Nu Gundam somewhere, which is complete. It is cool that this looks a little bit like the Nu Gundam's backpack, while at the same time looking a bit like the Unicorn's backpack. And you guys have asked me about checking out these little clips inside here, so hey, why not? So basically for the uninitiated right here, you might be wondering, what do I mean? Well, according to all these people, I didn't actually even think of this or know about this. The clips here are compatible with the Nu Gundam's fin funnels. Now, I'm not sure to, well, exactly as to how, but I guess we're gonna take a look and see. So this backpack is a ridiculously cool design. This little segment can come out, if I recall correctly. Whoa, that came out a little quicker than I expected it to out of that compartment. So we're kind of skipping forward to some parts we'll be taking a look at later on when it changes its form, but these are required in order to try on the fin funnels, and it looks like we'd be able to do a double fin funnel as well because we've got two of them. Now the Nu Gundam's fin funnels are an absolute nightmare, so I'm not sure how far I'll actually get with this without rage quitting, so let's see exactly what we can do. So these things connect to each other in the absolute worst possible way. That is with these kind of strange flip out elements like this, with those tiny, tiny little teeth that just kind of grab into each other, well, barely, if even at all. So they can't really hold the weight. Yeah, they do that. Look at that. Oh, I may not actually be able to survive this attempt, but here we go. Actually, I should have went for the double fin funnel or a shorter double instead. That is hard to line. Oh, yeah, there we go. It's definitely attached on. However, I did realize these are on the wrong way. So popping the fin funnel wing on is the nightmare you'd expect it to be. If once you're kind of used to it, it's not the worst, but any kind of knock or anything will knock the whole thing off. Once I got it on, this is what it looks like. So yes, you can connect the fin funnels on to the narrative Gundam, which is pretty cool considering it is meant to be a prototype new. This does make it look a little more, well, closer to what it is a prototype of. So jumping into the accessories, and here's absolutely everything that comes with the Master Grade Narrative Gundam Mecha. First off, we've got 2 sets of Psycho Plate for using with this. That is the NTD activated clear pink, as well as the NTD deactivated grey. When it comes to the equipment in here, we've got the beam rifle, which can be in 2 forms. What we're seeing right here is the narrative version, but we have the parts in here to convert this to the Jegan style rifle and an extra ammo magazine. Next up, we've got 2 beam sabers. We've got a full shield as well as 2 attachment parts for attaching it onto either or arm. When it comes to hands, we've got 2 pairs, that's 4 in total, 2 posable, 2 fixed pose fists. We've got landing gears for using with the core fighter, and finally we do have a 1/100 scale figure of Jonah Basta. When it comes to the hands in here, we've got 2 choices. That is the ones I've had on the whole time, which are a pair of fixed pose fists. Simple, effective, and they have a nice little bit of articulation in the wrist, so you can get it into some nice poses. The other hands we have in here is a pair of articulated hands. Now these aren't fully articulated, nor are they the Master Grade 3-1-1 hands of the past. This is kind of a combination. So at the first joint closest to the palm, 3 fingers are attached together. They're attached by 2 joints, so you can't actually cut them apart, as they aren't individually jointed. Then we've got the index and the thumb, which are separate. Moving up 1 joint, then all of them are individually jointed, so you can move them all in whichever way you want, and the final joint in the hands have no joint whatsoever. So these are more secure, more structurally sound, but not as posable as what we would have seen on Master Grade Veracaz before, but you can still pull off the important poses, aka pose. Attaching these is super simple. It's just a ball joint into a socket, and they hold on perfect. So next up in here, we've got the beam sabers. Once again, these are the most kind of basic aspect of the whole kit. The handles in here are 1 piece, but we do have some nice lines in them. Hole slots on one side, kind of fake slots on the other. The beams right here are classic as they come, so just reused old beams, but they do definitely seem like they will fluoresce under blacklight, just like the Psycho frame itself. Getting the beam sabers attached is pretty cool, and that goes for all the weapons on this. We have a fold-out peg in the hand, which is not unusual. That's a staple for some Master Grade Gunpla, but this particular peg has a nice slotting mechanism, which is really only for the rifle. We'll mention that then. With the beam sabers, just pop it on like so. I'm not sure how this will hold up over time with repeated on and offing of weapons, but for so far, it's working out well. Then you just bend the fingers around, and this looks pretty good. As usual, I'm going to test the reverse grip as well, in case you want to get a little bit interesting with your poses, and this does work as well, except the Gundam is holding it towards the end ever so slightly, but it does work out and it does look great. There is the Master Grade Narrative Gundam in a pose with some weapons, and this is my first time now posing it a bit, and man, when you actually move the different elements of this, especially in the legs, we've got some old school Master Grade sliding gimmicks. It feels incredibly good, and overall it just looks natural when it falls into a pose. Just look at that. I don't even need to say anything. It is phenomenal. The beam sabers, even though they are kind of basic looking at first, they do fluoresce under blue and black light, which you can see there, even just slightly out of focus, gives it a full-on beam saber or lightsaber kind of feel. It works out so well. Cannot wait to see that NTD Psycho Plate. Impressed so far. When the beam sabers are not in use and you want to store them, you just pop them out of the hands like so. Take the beams out of the handles. We've got this little section right here, which you can pop them into, and then you can open up this flap on the butt of the narrative, slot this in, then close the flap up to lock this in place. This is so cool, really nice. Simple, yet ridiculously effective. Now, while we're on the topic of very impressive butt flaps, we've got another one right here, which just opens up just like so. This is quite literally the Narrative Gundam's butthole, and this is its attachment for putting it onto action bases. So no action base adapter in here. That's just a hole that works seamlessly with action bases just like that. How impressive of an attachment is that? So that's in there, hidden away. You don't need to go looking for adapters whenever you need to pop it onto a base, and there you go. This is on like an action base, I think this is a 4, but you definitely need the one that has the 3 elements to it, because it can get a little bit on the wiggly side like this, but otherwise it does work. Now, Bandai also has this as well. This is the Action Base 8. This just dropped either this week or last week. This is a brand new, pretty much master grade, large size action base, but it has that more usable, simple, kind of articulated stick to it. Now, I won't be taking a look at this today because I do not have the time, but I will make a review of this and the 7, which is the smaller variant of it, very, very, very soon. Now, these ones I'm looking at right now are a bit on the wiggly side, so I'm going to grab one of those action bases. You know those ones. It doesn't have a name. It just comes with some 1/100 kits sometimes. A lot of people, I guess me included, think they're the best master grade action bases out there because they don't require any screws and they're good and strong. I don't know why Bandai doesn't sell these. Why the hell not? These things right here, a little bit too wiggly. So the next piece of equipment we have in here is the beam rifle and the alternate parts for changing it from the Jegan version into the narrative Gundam version. So what I've got right here is the Jegan version of the rifle. Now, I don't have my Jegan handy at the moment, so here's just a flashback to the Jegan review so you can see what its rifle looked like. I'm not sure off the top of my head what it looks like, so I'm going to throw in a bit of a comment right now. Yup. And this right here is what the brand new rifle looks like. I love this two-tone gray. It is absolutely spectacular looking. The light gray coming through from underneath is amazing. We do have a removable magazine, which is something that I always absolutely adore. So you can have your narrative Gundam posed mid-reload. It pops in good and tight. That light gray coming through even comes through on the bottom. You could spray that in a nice kind of aluminium, brushed aluminium kind of color, and it would make this look premium as all hell with zero effort. And we do have one of those incredibly beautiful stickers for the sight in it with some nice printed detail on it. Overall, I am so impressed. If that wasn't impressive enough already, the conversion's super simple. You just pop off this top part right here, pop off the barrel like so. This is kind of the intermediate version. And then you just pop the barrel of the narrative's rifle on like so, lengthening it, and the sight just slides on simple as. It's such a nice conversion. When I found out there was only one rifle and you had to actually convert it, I was a little bit disappointed, but actually after seeing how it works, it's so simple. I'm seriously, it's just pop, 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 and pop, and oh man, I would love to see, remember those system weapons you used to be able to get for 1/144th scale kits? I'd love to see a set of these for master grades, but well, that's never going to happen. Now, if that was not impressive enough already, it's going to get even more impressive. So we need to get this attached onto the peg in the hand. This is not the usual way. On the grip of this particular weapon, we've got this rear section right here that you just pull out like this. This has the slot in it. This slides up the peg in the hand like a little kind of rail and holds in position. Then you slot the rifle back onto that in the hand for a rock solid, never gonna drop grip. The fingers then just slide perfectly onto it. It is so well designed. I am so mega impressed. Once again, there's the Master Grade Narrative Gundam in a pose, and I have to say, I am blown away. Once again, I'm going to underline, this is this kit out of box straight built. It is that good looking. It is this rock solid. This is, the ultimate standard Master Grade Verka. Again, the conversion of the rifle right here is so simple that basically all you have to do is 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is it. It is that simple to convert the rifle from the Jegan version to this one right here, the narrative version. So we'll mention you can use this in the left and the right hand just by taking this little segment right here and popping it in the other way around. It all works exactly the same way we would have seen before, except you slide it up instead of sliding it down. Then when this is not in use, you're actually able to attach this onto the butt flap, but not at the same time as the beam sabers in this mode anyway. Later on we get some parts from the backpack for the beam sabers, but right now they have to come off. We do have 2 attachment points on here for using with the magazines. You can attach on one or the other, and the beam rifle slots onto that little fold out tab that we would have used with the beam saber attachment. It attaches on like so, and that is what we've got. You can either have the magazines attached or not attached, it's up to you, but this all works perfect. Inside the torso of this, we do have that full core fighter or core block. This has perfect color separation. It looks absolutely fantastic. We do have landing gears for using with it as well, and folding it up is super simple. It's nice, fluid, perfect. Its final core block form is rock solid, and it just slots onto this stem section in the torso very perfectly and doesn't undermine the robot mode whatsoever. This may be the first ever 100% perfect transforming core block. So the rest of the equipment we have in here is for when this is, well, equipped with the Psycho frame, so it's about time to do that. We've got so many parts. We've got the brand new red Psycho frame, and we've got the recast of older unicorn psycho frame in that deactivated gray. This right here is what we get once this is fully kitted out with the NTD pink psycho frame, and to get it to this right here, and surprisingly, it's not that difficult. According to the instructions, they say to pop off the arms and the legs while actually doing this. It's just for the sake of easiness. I think you're actually able to do it with all the limbs attached. In the torso, we have 3 moving parts, a flap that flaps back, a little bit on the side that slides forward, and then a little bit that slides down at the bottom, which is a little bit difficult at first to actually slide down. Then you just pop the psycho frame into that. It's very, very simple. However, the manual can be a little bit confusing. This is one of those points where the manual does suffer a little bit that it is fully in black and white, not in color. Next up, you've got those beam Vulcans. They pop up underneath the chest, nice and secure. Down at the waist unit then, this is super impressive. It all is, but this is super impressive. A part moves up, a part moves down. You remove this navy blue section that's inside of it, and then you slot in the psycho frame just like so, and close it all back up. Next up at the front skirtings, you slide down this panel right here to unlock the upper section, pop out the entire upper section like so. You replace the light gray parts with the psycho frame, you reuse the upper white section, and then it all slots back in, and then you lock it in with the upward sliding motion once again. The side skirtings, again, super impressive. They just slide down in this 2-step mechanism. You just throw in the psycho plate and then close this in at the bottom section. It looks great. Around back then, it's just a simple act of flipping up the butt flap and attaching these thrusters in underneath. Very easy. There's a little bit of a sidewards, outwards moving mechanism too. I keep saying that's impressive, but it really is. When it comes to the arms, we've got another little sliding section like here that just opens up a section front and back. 2 pieces of psycho plate attach up here, and then the next part is why the manual tells you to remove the arms. That is because this bit of additional armor with psycho plate actually slides in from the inside aspect, which might be a little bit difficult when the arms are attached. Next up down the forearm, we've got a nice sliding mechanism to remove the lower forearm. We've got a nice opening hatch on the side of the arm. Move down the cuff armor a little bit, and the psycho frame just slots in perfectly. The back of the arm snaps back into position over it. You slide the forearm back on, and it just works so well. On with the arms once again. And now it's time to move down to the legs. At the foot, the manual does say to pop it off, so I did that. You will actually have to, by the way, for this. Point the toes downwards, open up this little mechanism inside of the foot, slide a little section down, and then you pop the psycho plate in, and it just closes in on top of that so absolutely perfectly. Up at the upper thigh, we've got a mechanism, a hatch that opens up like so, a little bit that you just slide upwards to open up a little bit of an attachment point, and then the big piece of thigh psycho plate just slots in there, and you close the hatch back down. Down at the knee, bend the knee, bring forward the knee armor, bring up the upper knee armor. The psycho frame just slots in nicely. There is a little bit of a switch you need to press first, and then the upper knee and lower knee armor lock onto that psycho frame absolutely perfectly. Now this is the reason now you have to remove the feet. The psycho frame section right here does slide onto the top of the feet in between the joint where it attaches in. Lastly then is the backpack. We've seen this before. Basically all you have to do is open a hatch, slot out the mechanism that's in there, make sure to take the fin funnel holding clips out of there, attach those onto the new psycho plate backpack part, and it just all pops in there. Finally then we do have the shield as well. I have the gray psycho frame on it, but swapping psycho frame on this is easy. Just pop out these little circular sections on the front, take the armor sections off the gray psycho plate. It would have been nice if we had extra bits of these white armor sections to make it easier, but you just pop those onto the NTD plate sections, pop it all back together, and there you go. That is how you get your narrative Gundam to this right here, and it does look ridiculously impressive. I've actually, while making this video, bought a second one of these, just because I love both forms so much. So I will be having one with the psycho plate and one without. And speaking, of which, I was going to add the gray psycho plate just so we could see what that is like too, but instead I started pissing around and doing a bit of a Sailor Moon transformation for an Instagram reel with this, which looked a little bit like what you're seeing right now. Actually, exactly like what you're seeing right now. So that means I do not have time to pop this on or the yellow stuff off the Banshee. So maybe when I'm building the Banshee, I'll pop a little bit on just to check out what it's like. But now I want a Master Grade Phoenix as well, just to kind of get the blue. Hopefully we will see some premium Bandai versions of this, like the Apex, and goddammit, I would absolutely love that big old mobile armor too. Seriously, it's a great kit. I hope they go absolutely ham with it. So yeah, once again, sadly, I won't be able to put the grey parts on. They're only really in the movie for, what, like 3 seconds when it comes out of that container in that absolutely awesome entrance like what you're seeing right now. But yeah, it would have been nice to see that on it, but it's time to take a look at the shield. So the last equipment we have in here is the shield. Like I mentioned, you can have this with the deactivated psycho frame or the red psycho frame. Around on the back here, we do have this little bit of a moving aspect right here for attaching it onto the backpack. We do have some nice color correct missile bits down here, as well as that cannon. In order to attach this, we've got these 2 mechanisms right here. So we've got this one, and they're exactly the same, just put together a little differently. This part has this joint attached to this bar, the other one has it attached to this bar. So both of these little rigs, that means you can use it on either the left or the right arm. In order to attach, you just pop off a hand, attach this on by hooking it further up the forearm first, then bringing it around to over the wrist section. It locks in absolutely perfectly. Then the shield just attaches on via the peg, and that's pretty much it. You've got some nice articulation around to the front portion of the arm, and getting this into a pose is quite good. Overall, it does work very well. There is a little bit of a bounce now that the shield is attached. It's quite a heavy shield, but overall, it's doing really well and looks really cool. So finally now on to the articulation and the build. Now the only thing I would actually mention about the build on this, and you can see it right there, is the legs are hilariously wiggly. Like, I mean, it's quite funny. There's a springiness to the upper section right here where it attaches into the waist. Like, this never gives me any problem. I've had it in a ton of different poses so far. It's just kind of unique, I guess. Anyway, usual pose time. So thrown into the usual pose, and this works out incredibly well. Everything is fantastic, feels strong, feels smooth. Even though I did have a little bit of a jump and almost pulled the upper body off the core fighter, it does hold on really well. All of the joints are very fluid, it's very nice. For the most part, it is quite solid. The only thing that could be a little bit better, I feel, is the ankles. You could get a little bit more pivot, maybe an upward movement at the toe, but besides that, it is fantastic. Until one tiny little thing that has cropped up on me a couple of times. And that would be this right here. So the arm has popped off of me right here twice now. One time when I was doing the Sailor Moon transformation, and one time right now. This isn't a usual occurrence unless you're really pushing this kit. Then it can kind of happen a little. So basically, it's just the way it's designed. This attaches on to this little bit. It's a fairly basic design in the joint right here. The only thing that's truly holding this together is this little flappy, which attaches on here like that. So with constant twisting and pulling on that, it can end up popping off, but 90% of the time, that's not going to happen. So now moving through the articulation point by point, we've got a giggity goo neck. There's all the way looking up, all the way looking down, fantastic side to side pivot, and the head can spin all the way around. The shoulder joints here are fantastic. We've got an extra joint which is part of the torso. The shoulder joint can fold out of the torso, and that gives fantastic range of motion to the front as well as to the back. There's the arm all the way up, pretty good, but this is an extremely stiff joint that puts a lot of stress on other joints, so be careful. Full 360 spin at the shoulder, full 360-degree bicep swivel, 2-point joint at the elbow, an extra bit of joint for a bit of wiggle here at the upper forearm, and we've got a 2-point joint for the wrist. That is the regular ball joint, and a little bit of a hinge in there as well. The torso on the Master Grade Narrative Gundam is completely paralyzed, but Bandai's made up for this in a couple of ways. First off, we do have a side-to-side crunch, which is based in the waist unit. And speaking of the waist unit, we've got this absolutely fantastic dropping mechanism, which makes up for the lack of an ab crunch. Now, getting this to actually work is a little bit on the difficult side, where to actually press to make this drop down can be a little bit confusing at times. Getting it back up again is easy, but here's a little bit of an example of it standing up. You kind of press down on the top of the crotch point, and this is the sort of range of motion that you get. We've got some very nice skirts on this. The front skirting is a double ball joint, which allows it to move up, down, and out from the body. Ball joint side skirts, which are very secure, move around quite a bit. And we've got a double premium butt flap that moves up and down. The kicks on this are great. There it is all the way up to the front, all the way out to the back, and there is the full splits. Full 360-degree spin at the upper thigh. Phenomenal bend at the knee, which has some old school moving gimmicks in it done so intricately well. This is phenomenal. It just looks so cool as it bends. We do have a little bit of a thruster section around back. This does move more when it's in the standard version as opposed to using the psycho plate, because the psycho plate gets in the way. We do have a bit of a wiggle at the ankle armor, and the most, I guess, basic joint on the kit would be the ankle. There's the foot all the way up, all the way down. We do have a bend at the toe downwards, but no bend upwards, and the side-to-side pivot is a little bit blocked. One of the coolest aspects and something I got from the Nu Gundam are these little claws in the bottom of the feet. They flick out just like so, and it makes sense because in space, there is no gravity for a Gundam to basically land on things. It has to hold itself on, and this is how it anchors itself in place. Finally then, the functional movement at the ankle. There it is all the way out to the back. You can get a little bit more while maintaining the foot on the ground by bending the toe downwards. There it is all the way to the front, not too bad either. And the side-to-side pivot is a little bit blocked and has a bit of a funny twist to it, although that does make those wide spread leg poses look quite dynamic. Once again, there is that full pose, so you can see the overall articulation on this kit, and it is fantastic. You'll pull off whatever pose that you want to. So anyway, that right there is it for the review. 100% this is a Gundarium tier kit and like nothing else out there. What Bandai and Kotoki have done here is phenomenal. This has even pushed the master grade Verca envelope that little bit further and is so impressive. Aesthetically, it looks astounding. You can build this in 3 different ways out of box. That's the standard way, deactivated cycle plate, or the activated cycle plate. This is so much to look at, so many intricate, detailed aspects, a 2-tone inner frame that you can see, a clear cockpit into the pilot figure. It's got so much. When it comes to the accessories in here, like I mentioned, there is so much. The 2 tones of deactivated and activated cycle plate, a beam rifle that you can convert between 2 styles, a shield which you can also convert using the included cycle plate, beam sabers, and probably the most interesting base attachment I have ever seen. Finally then, when it does come to the articulation, this will do everything you want it to. There's so many little gimmicks and moving parts that'll keep even the most particular poser happy. You'll get every pose you want out of it, and it will always look dynamic. It's good and solid too, just watch out for that upper arm. So yeah, Gundarium tier kit, 100% unmissable. I love this so much I bought a second one while reviewing it. And if you do want one of your own, I threw a link down there in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I will see you next time. I can't end this video right here without the usual thanks, saying thank you so much for watching. This video and this channel would not be possible without each and every single one of you, including those of you who support me over on the channel memberships and on Patreon, including Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Go Little Rockstar, Joe, or G59061, Shadow Wolf 179, 10 Soldier YT, and Van Fawn.